second day of 12th IEEE DESSERT conference on dependable system services and technologies. It's our pleasure with co-general chair of this conference, Professor Nikos Bardis, to start this second day. We are happy, yes, Nikos?
Of course. Today is the second day.
Yes.
It's the full day.
Yes.
Hybrid day with online and offline presentations. And we'll be very happy to show all the people here who will participate in person for a long time after COVID period. So it's the first step for DESSERT'.
Yes. We are happy because yesterday, the first day was very successful, as you see. All 32 presentations will be made, and we continue our today conference according with our program. We begin now the third plenary session. And it's our pleasure to invite all for participation in this session. We have a mixed mode, as said Nikos. Now we are in Officer Club in the center of Athens. It's a beautiful place. Thank you, Nikos. Thank you, our Greek colleagues. According to this program, we start from our first plenary lecture. Our guest, Tal Katran. Tal is accelerators guru and startup ecosystem from Tel Aviv, Israel. I think we can talk about Tal a lot of time, but I think it would be better if we invite Tal for his presentation related to changing of the world, using startup, using accelerator, using interesting project. According to our time schedule, we have 40 minutes for plenary talk. And we invite Tal for your presentation. Thank you very much for your participation in our conference, for your work, and for your presentation. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Vyacheslav, I could listen to you present me 10 more minutes and I will be okay with it. It's fine. I like when people speak about me, and I'm very excited to be here. Nikos, thank you also for inviting me. As said, I'm from Israel, currently actually talking from Lithuania, but which is why I did not physically join the event, but I'm very excited and happy to be here to speak to you about startups. I'm not exactly sure how many of you have startups right now, but I would assume that you guys, being engineers and being technical people, I can imagine how many times amazing ideas kind of ran through your minds. And the question is always, what did you do? What did you do about it? And I'm here to maybe in a way inspire, but also motivate you towards the startup, let's say, industry. Coming from Israel, as you know, renowned as a startup nation. Just want to say that since I cannot avoid the fact that although the event is conducted in Athens, still there is a big Ukrainian presence. And I want to say to you, first of all, why is Israel considered a startup nation? So aside from the fact that, as we say, per capita, per million, Israel is leading the world in number of startups. Fact is that in 1898, Theodor Herzl, the father of our nation, stood on a balcony in Basel and said, the Jewish people need to have their own country. He was a visionary, a man of thinking. He visualized the need for a state for the Jewish people. But what actually happened, that after he said it, nothing happened. Not a day, not a week, not a month, not a year, not a 10 years. It took 50 years for Ben Gurion, our first prime minister, in 1948 to establish Israel. This comes to say that very much like startups, there is always or usually a one person who is a visionary that comes up with an idea. And this idea, as we say, kind of builds up, runs around his brain, nagging him all the time that he needs to do something about it. But it takes time for this to materialize, for this to ripe, for this to become action. And usually the action is taken when he meets his partner, who is the technical person. So we have the CEO, the visionary, the people's person, the ones who do the talking, and we have the CTO, the person who knows to make those words into action. Again, coming to show why Israel is really a startup nation from inception. Later on, well, Israel has near 7,000 registered startups today. And again, these are the one, as we say, LTDs, not the bootstrapped in the garage. And still, when you look on the size of this ecosystem, taking into consideration high tech and startups, the entire community out of the near 10 million residents of Israel is only 350,000 people. So again, as I said, the entire high tech and startup community is 350,000 people. Amazing is not just this number. Amazing is what this number has accumulated, or what this number of capable people turned ideas into action. So in the year 2021, last year, I was told the year of COVID, everything going difficult, many startups shutting down, money almost dried from the market, investors keeping money for themselves because much uncertainty due to COVID. Israel's startup ecosystem raised over $25 billion and did exits in over $80 billion. $80 billion. This is a number bigger than the national budget of some countries in the world. And Israel did it in one year. Amazingly, again, just in the month of March 2021, Israel gave birth to 7 unicorns in 1 month. A unicorn, a company valuated or acquired in $1 billion and up. Interestingly enough, again, the topic of those 7 startups was cyber. Israel, you might say, first or maybe second most attacked country in the world when it comes to cyber. What you see in Israel is that the war state that we live in also builds resilience. It builds the understanding that you can rely honestly only on yourself. Yes, you need a world's opinion and support, but in the end, it drills down to yourself. As we always say, you can trust yourself and God. Israel learned it the hard way. In the beginning, as I said, we were established in 1948. We have reached out to countries all over the world asking for help to build our nation. Some said no, many said yes, but as we say, when push comes to shove, when we reached out to them asking for help, then they say, sorry, cannot help you, which quickly brought us to the conclusion that we can trust only ourselves, and we began to develop what we needed by ourselves. Of course, the initiator is government. The big money always resides with the government. Problem that you see in most governments is priority, is where the attention of politicians go. But when you establish your nation, there is no question. There is no question where your attention should be. It was about building the resilience, building the technological capabilities, enlarging the nation in population, and the money was concentrated and targeted towards doing that. Little did we know that by developing, or the technology that we were developing for ourselves would be needed by the rest of the world. Israel is, you would say, kind of deserty, at least at the time that we began. So there was a lot of dunes, a lot of sand, a lot of sea, a lot of salt, but there was lacking water, desalination, then the spreading of water, irrigation, and from this more and more things grew as we went along. So we developed ourselves, and then it kind of spread worldwide. Many of the technologies that you use today, if you're using Waze for your traveling, acquired by Google for $1.1 billion. If you are using irrigation, if you are eating cherry tomatoes, if you are using Mobileye, if you are using your phone camera, if you do Google Complete, and many, many other technologies were developed in Israel. I don't know if you know this, but as an example, Intel and Microsoft, those companies established themselves in Israel, and only Israel, aside from the US, can take managerial decisions by those companies in Israel, meaning there is no other place in the world where those companies, of course, have their establishment working, but they cannot take managerial decisions, only the one in Israel. And you will hear Microsoft saying many times that it is as much Israeli as it is US. I want to say that all this drills down to people. Without people, there is no technology. Without people, there are no startups, no companies, no nothing. And this would bring me to the conclusion that people are people wherever you go. I've been to Athens, as you know, very close to Israel. I think I've been most of Greece. And I've been to Ukraine as well, been to Kiev several times. I know the people. I know the technological capability of those people. But as you see, that is not enough. Even being inspired and a visionary, meaning thinking about an idea, is not enough. It all drills down to deliverables. It all drills down to taking capabilities as a potential to turn them into action. And that is not easy. So again, you would meet a lot of people that have amazing ideas for you. Are they capable to turn them into action? What I'm saying is that Israel is a good example where the necessity, the sense of urgency, turned potential into action, and everything then followed. As you know, in Israel, army is mandatory from age 18, 2 years for girls, 3 years for boys. This is how we grow. In the amazing age of 18, you just finished high school. No one is asking you, do you want or you don't want? You go and serve your country. You learn that you need to give before you receive. And as time goes by, our army is becoming more and more technological by actually developing its own technology, meaning inside the army. Again, sending out later on, as people finish their army service, more technological people into the ecosystem, and those people usually will turn towards startups. Now, again, as I said, when people ask you what's your startup, you immediately start to answer the technology. I would say from now on, please present yourself first. Explain how capable you are before speaking about your technology. And then, of course, comes the technology. It is well known, let's say some statistic facts, that actually over 90% of startups shut down in the first year of operation, which brings the fact that maybe having a startup is one of the most dangerous professions you can find on the planet. Meaning it is almost certain that you are going to fail. If you are afraid of failure, then startups are not for you. And it's okay. Startups, I can tell you, are not for everyone. It's not a necessity. I would advise at least go and try, at least join, be there for part of the way. And since again, it is most probably that you're going to fail, at least enjoy the ride. The best entrepreneurs and startuppers that you will meet are the ones that keep on trying. If they keep on failing, that is difficult. Hopefully, they will succeed at one point, which again comes to the fact that in the beginning state of startups, they are, as we say, poor. They don't have money. They don't have resources. They cannot penetrate the US market tomorrow morning, not just because they don't have money to pay for the taxi to go to airport, let alone fly to Silicon Valley. But there is enough to do in your own country. And of course, the way to go about it is to find a real need and then kind of develop the solution. What you see, since I know I'm talking to academic people as well, is that in the academy, in some cases, we say, let's develop and then look around and see who needs. I would say we need to change this paradigm. I mean, I would say, first of all, let's look for the need. Hence, the right way, I think, to develop is to go to the end and reverse engineer. Go to your potential customers, understand their needs. From this, devise a plan and a solution. Then at least you can start with having something substantial at hand. So the first thing you should do is come up with a problem and validate the problem. Ask around. And then again, you should do it to the solution. Of course, the first feedback you will hear is, but if I will start telling people about my problem and solution, probably they will copy me. They will copy me. They will do it themselves. And they will sell it for $500 million. Well, that's a nice fairy tale. It doesn't happen in reality. I'm not even sure, aside from the movie Facebook, how many times it actually happened. What I do say is that you can or you must ask around your potential customers, do they think your solution is suitable for their problem? When I say ask your customers, I don't mean asking your parents or your friends. They will like, since they like you, they will be nice. That is not where your answer lies. Your answer lies with your real potential customers, the ones that you don't know. Now, again, I know I'm speaking, as I said, to academic people. And I know that there is a kind of a friction, if you'd call it, between the industry and the academy. The academy, in most cases, is financed by the education ministry. Industry, by the economy or trade. And I think one of the good things that I should expect to have in this kind of an event is the discussion. I really see, I myself established until today 20 acceleration and incubators in Israel, as well as in several countries, mostly in Eastern Europe. And in that number, I've also established 3 academic accelerators, and I'm right now working on my 4th, which would be a technological incubator in one of Israel's leading engineering academy in the center, very near Tel Aviv. And when I say there is a lack of the discussion, it means that since the finance from different direction and by nature the people are different, I see many times the friction when the industry reaches out to the academy requesting to put more emphasis on a specific topic. And I see the feedback coming from the academy to the industry, hey, with all due respect, don't tell us what we need to teach. We will teach what we want to teach, which creates later on gaps. Mostly, I see it in software engineering. And as you know right now, just as an example, so the academy would teach you .NET, C++, C#, and all that towards what the academy thinks the industry needs. While the industry, for instance, needs Python for cyber. What you are creating by not having the discussion is a lot of people coming out of academy that will not find work because not needed, while the industry suffers from lack of professional people. Now, again, to put the record straight, academies, this is where everything starts. And I'm not just talking academy about teaching me theoretical studies or teaching me a profession. Of course, there is an expectation also to get experience, not just theoretical. But aside from that, academies actually produce the manpower of tomorrow, the manpower that will go for the industry. It only makes sense. It's imperative for the two to talk all the time. Industry bringing needs, academies supporting, accommodating the need. Just maybe a word of advice how I do it. I go to the academy, I take the biggest auditorium they have and fill it with students and professors. Fill it. I bring the industries and I request the industries to pitch their benchmark, pitch their needs, a wish list of if we had this, we will be more competitive in the market. We will be more advanced. We will be more interesting. They pitch. Once they're done, then the students, of course, the audience, the academics get to apply and write a short abstract about the solution. Once I get this, I go back to the industry and present the solutions, making the contact, and then the project starts. In most cases, the industry is very interested even in a small financial support for the student or professor to continue on. In the middle, a little bit the issue of intellectual property, patents if needed. Of course, in software, it's kind of easier. And what I see is that from that, let's say, again, potential, which is like in the air, we see action. And this action, in the end, comes to startups, later companies, and later big companies. So this is just, as I say, a word of advice of what I think that you can use or maybe try and use for next. Again, emphasis about discussion. Again, discussion, not just saying, okay, you know, there's a world trend and need to do so and so, but actually drill down. So if this is the need in the world, meaning from side of industry, how does the academy accommodate, support? And the one thing that we all know that academy can do, aside from preparing or manufacturing manpower, is of course the research. And the research, again, is essential. Point to take is that, again, when I say research, it is scientific in most cases. The academy doesn't do marketing surveys or business development. They do the research for the technology, for the science. It would be the industry's responsibility to take it onwards on the side of the business. So this is the connection I see. Academic accelerators. Most universities and academies I know today understood they must start teaching entrepreneurship. So much so that in some academies I work with, the diploma now says mechanical engineer or software engineer and entrepreneurship studies. Why? Because when you think about entrepreneurship, as far as I think about it, only good things come to mind. Self-sufficient, teamwork, but also individual, out-of-the-box thinker, risk taker, a person that you would like to employ. So if he's a professional, plus having this, I think the mind can soar and come up with a lot of solution, with a lot of capabilities of pushing forward. And as we know, the R&D, always research and development, always is in the basis of the success of every industrial company forever. As much as startups are a growth engine within every economy in the world. The issue is that startups are first of all people. And when you raise your people, when you raise your kids, not by pushing them up, telling them all the time how good they are and smart they are, but telling them, you know what, don't jump too high. Don't let someone notice you too much. When you do this, you're actually pulling them down where you should promote them up. Think about it for a second. Why would you judge yourself and criticize yourself downwards? I can promise you there will be enough people that would do this for you for the rest of your life for free. They would love to criticize you. They would like to smile idle and see you not succeeding. I say push the other way. Push up. Push up in ways that even if the student or your child failed, it's not the end of the world. It should be always up and up and up. That's a one. A second, social skills. Since we see our kids kind of getting stuck more and more into the computer, talking to virtual whatever with avatars, this also creates social distancing. I'm not so worried about this as much as I'm worried about the disconnection from what is going on in the world, not in way of synthetic information that you swallow, but in way of reality. These are skills that startups must have. Startups, since they are very, very low on resources, need to excel on other skills, as it is by nature. If you don't see well, you hear better. Same here. We need to teach those skills. And when I say teach, you will probably say if you know startups. So startups, and then we have accelerators, which are programs to grow startups. Then you have your mentors, other words for teachers, let's say, teachers, coaches, and you have your, let's say, investors. This is what most people know. Accelerator is a program, startup, mentor, investor. Ask yourself for a second. A startup, I know, it's one or two people coming up with a technological idea. By the way, must. When we say startup, we need to see two things happening: innovation and technology, without drilling down to the real meaning of what it means. Technology, we know. Innovation, we know. Like we know it. These are the basic. This is the essential of a startup. Meaning a startup that will say, "Hey, I'm producing shirts." That's a nice small business. It's not a startup. Should the shirt have Wi-Fi fibers inside, then you're interesting. You're talking technology. But for now, again, when we say startup, we mean technology must and innovation. This is how we begin. So we have acceleration program for them. But who made a mentor a mentor? Who taught a mentor to become a mentor? Well, I'm a mentor. I'm in marketing for 25 years. So you know marketing. Yes, I can teach a startup. Did you talk to a startup? Did you ever see a startup? Yeah, I spoke to this company. Yes, 500,000 workers is not a startup. Mentors need to be taught to become one. Same as investors. Today in Israel, we teach both. Meaning in the academy itself, there are courses how to become a mentor and what to do as a mentor, and how to become a startup investor. We teach it. We teach it Same as you are not born a professor, a pilot, a doctor, or whatever. So again, this is how important it is. Okay, guys, just I'm not following time. If you can, signal me and tell me if I need to stop.
Yes, we have. You have for 8 minutes more.
8 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So pushing on. Just a second. Yes. So
Tal, you have a PowerPoint because we are seeing only you. You have a presentation also.
no. I'm the presentation, as I
Okay.
said. By the way, I like the point that you just mentioned about presentation, and I always discuss this with startups. It is so important for startups and people and students, for that matter. I always say to my startups, when you meet an investor, the first thing they do after hello, they take out the laptop, open it, presentation. Listen, if you cannot hold half-hour conversation about the startup, which is your baby, without a presentation, you're in a problem right now. Because there will be a one-time your presentation, for instance, will not work. But it is about communication. And as I said, startups are people. And amazingly enough, investors are people. And mentors are people. And your clients are people. The people who would use what you're developed is people. The people listening now are people. It's all about people. And startups as a one must have communication skills, must be able to conduct a conversation like this, interesting enough, inspiring enough, having the verbal skills without a presentation. Now, I don't own shares in Microsoft, hence I don't use a PowerPoint, okay? But for me, it is imperative to teach this ability for us to discuss, because you are getting much more from the face, from the eyes, from the sound when you see a person than anything else. Same as I always say, again, you're academic people. Think how much of what you know you learn firsthand, meaning yourself from experience, opposing how much you know because someone told you. And what I push my startups to do is say thank you to anyone offering advice, but then go and try it yourself, as much, of course, as you can. You must try things yourself. You must come to the understanding that whomever would listen to you and hopefully invest in you in time and use what you do would be people exactly like you that will rely on you and not your technology. When there will be a problem, no one goes to the app and says to the app, sorry, you're, I don't know, the worst thing I ever seen. They go to the entrepreneur. When you are pitching for money to an investor, he doesn't talk to the app or for the product. He speaks to you. He invests in you. He invests in you believing that you are capable to turn all your words into something of essence. By the way, in Hebrew, we have a one word for it. It's called tachles. If you will Google it later, you will find a one word tachles, which means after all the mambo jumbo ba, what's the bottom line? What do you mean by essence? What are you selling me? Tachles. One word, learn it. I think most people maybe know the Hebrew word for chutzpah. Many use it, chutzpah. Chutzpah is the daring part. And believe me, to pitch your idea to someone that you know for 5 minutes, asking him for €1 million, you need a lot of chutzpah to do that. You need to have a lot of audacity, a lot of daring to do. I would advise you to do that. So since I'm near the end of my time, I want to say the following. Number one, startups are people. Number two, startups are about innovation and technology. Number three, dare in a way that you will be able to survive after the failure. Dare because you must take a risk that will push you forward. And it's okay to fail. By the way, if you talk to Israeli investors, the one of the questions you will hear very quick is, did you ever fail? If you smile and say, no, I'm only successful, they will say, listen, statistically, you're going to fail with my money. Go fail somewhere else and come back to me. So again, know what you're getting into beforehand, but then kind of let yourself go and do it. Startups succeed, first of all, on their team, then they will win on their technology. Don't rush to investors after 5 or 10 seconds, or let's say 2 months of operation. You validate problem and solution. You must show capabilities. You must show facts that you are capable to turn words into action, then go for investors. They will never run away. They will always be somewhere. You just need to reach out. So again, word of advice on this. Next, conversation between academy and industry. A must. The academy will forever remain the portal, and then the institution, the factory that would produce what we call the manpower for the industry. Academy must listen to what the industry needs. Industry needs to speak to the academy, tell it what it needs. We should use the academy much more than it uses it now. But also, since you are teaching marketing and business development and many things in the academy, you need to harness all those capabilities and work together. Israel, as I see in some other countries, this is evolving more and more. In the end, be good people. In the end, yes, we like to say it's about fun, but in the end, it's also a lot about the money. So yes, for startups, it's okay to dream. The main dream is that they will exit and become millionaires. It's a good thought. Any other way for startups to hold their every hour when you run a startup, aside from dreaming, millionaires. So let them dream, but at the same time, support their activity, action. Don't just stand and ask questions. Give also the answers and help them. In the end, I just want to say again, thank you so much for having me here. The continuation of this great conference to continue. I know you have also tomorrow. So my best friends here, Nikos, Vyacheslav, thank you again for having me. And thank you everyone, and enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, Tal, for your talk. It's really talk which can help us one more understand what about our creation, about our entrepreneurship, about our joint work with our students, with our colleagues, with business. And now we have short time for questions and answer. Dear colleagues, please, any questions for Tal? Yes, Professor Peter Popov. Peter, offline, please.
Sure, come.
Please come here. Sorry. Peter Popov represents City University London.
Very inspiring talk. Thank you very much. I would like to challenge you on one of the messages in your talk about the gaps which inevitably exist between academia and industry. When I was at the university as a student, the message that I got, and I keep it until these days, and I think this was the right message, was that academia or higher education can learn new skills for life. Inevitably, the technologies are going to change every 3, 4, 5, 10 years. We're going to have different needs. You mentioned Python versus C++ as an example, I take it. But isn't the role of academia indeed to give you the skills to approach when there is a new problem and find a way of succeeding in solving this problem? If we chase the what is in fashion, for instance, software engineering, there are millions of different language. Are we not going to deserve the students? I understand that you may probably will disagree violently with what I'm saying, but I'm just curious to hear your comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for the question. I will not start by saying I disagree. I just want to discuss maybe a different angle. And the different angle goes the following. I will be in about a week and a half. I will celebrate my 53rd birthday. Thank you, everyone, for your mazal tov. What I want to say is that the Gen Zs, as we call them, the Generation Z, is very different than my generation. This generation, and I see it with my kids, they don't wait. My son is nearing 15. He's already programming. He's already preparing himself to be recruited to the Israeli army, but to go to the intelligence corps, the well-renowned 8200 division of the intelligence corps that is responsible for cyber. My son, in a way, doesn't need the academy to teach him anything related to, let's say, software engineering. He can teach the academy right now, but he needs other skills that he needs to learn, probably with the academy. So it's not about learning capabilities. I think the environment of the academy also needs to adjust itself. The generation now is growing, bombarded by information, finding it very difficult sense from all this amount of fake news, fraud, and everything running towards towards them. Difficult to be able to do exactly that. So I do think academies still stand at the core of preparing the workforce for the industry, but need to adjust. Just one example. Think about it, the main difference between playing, for instance, basketball or football or cricket, because we have football because of Mondial, to what the kids play today, Fortnite or I don't know. I will tell you the main difference. You cannot enter court to play football or basketball without knowing the rules of the game. Then your group will probably lose. Minecraft, you don't learn the rules, you play, and you learn as you go. Industry, understand. Your new students know a lot of what you intend to teach them. And if you will really ask your students, they will tell you, at least in the first year, honestly, I was kind of bored. Everything that I was taught in the side of the technology, but not in project management, for instance, not in management entirely, not in business entirely. I think the industry, the academy should upgrade to the students that come what they need. Academy better. Forever the academy is needed. I have no doubt about it. I see myself partly also academic. By the way, if you look at the agenda, I was so kind and wrote Dr. Tal. I'm not a doctor, but I'm taking this title to myself from now on. I teach, in any case, the new generation of entrepreneurs because I have academic accelerators. So I think the question was very important. Doubt about the need and center and core of academy using the workforce for the industry, but my advice is and maybe do just some modification and adjustments. I hope I answered.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer.
Professor
Professor
Staroulakis. Ή από εδώ ή από εκεί, ό,τι θέλεις. Ή θα ανοίξει το μικρόφωνο ή εδώ. Εδώ.
Good morning. Your lecture was excellent. And what I got from your lecture, Israel, after United States, is a superstar in common sense. Why superstar in common sense? You just said that the mentor is a person who uses common sense. I cannot be taught. Let me give you an example. You remember Mitterrand?
Yes.
Mitterrand was the president of France, and while Germany did not exist, because it was divided and it was forbidden to have military expenses. So they did not, the engineering in that sense was limited to just produce and sell, but not to use it. Mitterrand one day said, in 10 years, Europe will surpass the United States. It is now 40 years, and the Europe is behind Israel and the United States. And I'll give you an example why we are behind.
Shut down. Hello?
It
Hello?
seems they frost, yeah.
They froze.
Yeah,
I thought I was kinda prone
Yeah.
to the snow.
Yeah. But it seems,
Send them a message somehow, maybe on.
okay.
Okay, we're back, guys. We see you again. Nikos.
Okay.
Yes. So, since the time of Mitterrand, Europe had billions and billions and billions of dollars spent on what you just said. Every university in Europe had the right to submit a proposal. But in order to submit a proposal, your project should be innovative, and you must have partners from 3 other universities from other countries, and also have the industry or in many companies or big industries that participate in order to use the results of your research. What happened? I had many proposals accepted. I had Italians and Spanish as partners. I had Italian and Spanish industries. We produced the result, and then the government or whoever approved the proposal did not follow to see the result to be implemented. So I thought you said that all our activities start from without the government. You start a startup. You are as a mentor try to see that this is not a game, and you believe that it's going to produce some very important result to be used by industry. But you follow from the beginning to the end. If this is not implemented, it should be a crime. And many times when people started giving some objections to this, what happened in Europe, many countries I knew they had to return the fund that they received. And I tell you some other trick. Europe said, the question is that we have, maybe you learn from Europe the things we did not do, which was a common sense. And I'll give you some other example. Europe said Italy has three sections. The northern Italy is developed, the southern Italy is not developed. Therefore, the projects will come from southern Italy will get a bigger subsidy. So what the company in southern Italy do will, in northern Italy, which had all the experience, would create a phony company in the southern industry, in the southern part, get 70% subsidy, create its own, buy the equipment they need, create a whole company, and then transfer it to the northern part and not implementing the project. You see, this is a common sense. If I was a president or some minister of development and energy and we had to do economics for Italy, I would put all these people in jail.
That if you will apply to the job, I will vote for you, Professor. So you have my support.
I'm retired and I'm looking for a job.
Exactly. It seems to me that you are very ready for a job, and please don't retire. I tell you that I warned Vyacheslav and Nikos that if I will talk, there will be a lot of response and a lot of engagement from audience there physically.
From my talk, if you are going to attend my talk, you're going to see who I am.
Okay.
Which is what I want to say. I think that audience here should be hundreds and thousands. This is the audience I'm looking for, because knowledge and experience, everyone who spoke, which I heard, it cannot be amounted by money. It is more valuable than money. Your experience. And if I can tell you one, you guys must stand up and start working with the new generation of building the startups. Your experience is needed more than you can even appreciate and realize. Your experience into the startups. They don't have a first clue about what you already forgot. I do. I bring the seniors to work with the startups, and it works like a charm. The connection between the 60, 70, and 80, 30, 35 is much better than the 25 to the 50 and 45. Believe me, it's better. So I call on you. Let's make a small think tank.
I'm looking for a job.
I say, I can take you.
Thank you for a question, very big question, and the answer. Of course, the time of the question we will take out of the next speech.
Sorry, can I ask one question?
Yes,
very short. Tal, I ask you about the following. What your opinion is concerning specifics of startups in area safety and security issues? Because usually such kind of startups are not very quickly commercialized. Hence, there is a problem between value of such startups, I mean value in point of view humanity, and commercial value. Thank you.
Which kind of startups again you were talking about?
Safety and security related. I mean the startups which are dedicated to improving, to increasing of safety, security, and so on.
Okay. And you say it takes them longer to implement themselves? I didn't get the question. Sorry, if you can repeat.
The question is that decision in area safety or security improvement are not very quickly commercialized. Hence, there is some problem of motivation of our students for such kind of startups.
Okay, I get it. I want to thank you for the question, and I want to say something, kind of maybe underline something I said. It is crucial that when you want to push your student, especially the students, towards, first of all, looking into, being more curious in a specific topic, the best way you could do is to bring the industry, which is in need for the solution, to do the pitch, and not you. You do not need to convince them. The industry, being a potential client, should not also convince, but pitch the need for the system is to have the customers engaged with the program, which is why you will see in my programs, they are always surrounded on the specific technology cluster. For instance, smart city, safe city, cyber, IoTs, medical cannabis, women's digital health. I can give you a list of clustered program. They don't start before I have the customer with me to help me. First of all, pitch the need, then screening and sorting, almost like they select the people that they want for the program, but to run a startup. This is why they take a step back. Now is your job, grow them up while mentoring, supporting with labs, marketing channels, knowledge, experience, brand, build it. And the students are very smart. The end, they will run for it, knowing the target, knowing where they need to. Not say, okay, let's brainstorm, let's think about needs. No, I'm almost needs, which is done now in the new incubator I mentioned for this academy. I decided to take students who are in the project division of the academy. Having already more than an idea, nearing an MVP, a prototype to the industry. I think it shows. Then the rest would follow. I think it's a very important topic you discussed, Vyacheslav. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for your answer. Sorry, but we have not time.
We have time. The time is Professor Stavroulakis, so we can hear him. So, Tal, thank you. Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
Guys, pleasure being here. Hope to see you soon again.
To mention that situation in the war, so we have here Ukraine, and as you can see, a lot of our people that participate is from Ukraine, and also here is a rector from 2 universities and vice rector and deans, and of course people that are listening now from the government. So in this situation during the war, and special the next day, how this system works with the startups. The system is the same as the open market as we know, or they have to make special steps on that. Have you any advice on that?
Yes. I can speak from experience of this year. I was invited to Azerbaijan country, and you are aware of the war going on with Armenia in Karabakh. The topic of the conference I was leading, how to rebuild the Karabakh, in ruins, left with a lot of landmines in the ground, a closed war zone. But the only way to push forward the rebuilding was through publishing challenges, meaning we need to do so. So the government shares challenges and lets the industry do its work. 2 things happen. One, the big companies with the big industrial capabilities run forward, run faster. Always run faster. They're small, very agile, very creative, and you need the both to work together. Teach it yourself. It happens. This glue happens by itself. So, government, United Nations, they come up with a challenge and funding. Speak to the company, speak to the startups, specific challenges, requests, idea, maybe, I don't know, hackathon, schmackathon, some of that. Industry then can take, needs to have ears that can amplify it to the world. This is not a challenge just of Ukraine. This is the challenge world to join. And you know how much the world is still kind of attentive. Sadly, I think we are getting too accustomed to the situation. Cannot happen. But there after, I have no doubt, and no one has a doubt, this will end at some point. I think the challenge should start now. Not, okay, let's wait for this to end, let's start. That will be too late. Now, I think this conference is the first voice amplified. Now is the time. We are here, we are ready, we are capable. This is what I think.
Thank you, Tal. Thank you for your answer and for your advices.
Thank you very much, Tal, for your presentation. We hope, we sure that our cooperation, our interaction will be continue. Let's thank Tal for his presentation. Thank you very much. I'll see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Enjoy the rest of the conference. I wish you good luck. We'll be in touch.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Have a good day, Tal. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. So the next presentation is by Professor Peter Stavroulakis. Please, Peter, you can do it from here. Yes, Peter, you have 5 minutes.
I'll make it in 4.5.
Φίλιππα, έχουμε USB θύρα. Ναι. Βγάλε κάτι.
Θα βγάλω την κάμερα αφού έχουμε το λάπτοπ.
Αυτό είναι το ημερομηνία.
Κάνουμε DESSERT'.
Ναι, κάντε DESSERT'.
Καθίστε μισό δευτερόλεπτο.
Τι θα γίνει. Το σβήσουμε.
Όχι, είναι έτσι.
Πρέπει να το κάνει share από το αυτό.
Ναι, λογικά. Ωραία.
Δεν το βλέπουμε ακόμα.
Ναι.
Και από εδώ θέλει πολύ να δείχνεις.
Και το πάρω εδώ, δείχνω
Όχι,
εκεί.
εκεί αν θες. Όχι, εντάξει, ναι, όχι.
Άστο, εντάξει.
Με τα βελάκια δεξιά και αριστερά.
Και να το κατεβάζω από εδώ.
Με τα βελάκια, εδώ δεξιά και αριστερά.
Και κάτω, τούτο.
Ναι.
Δηλαδή να αλλάξω αυτό.
Ναι, πατήσω.
Εντάξει. Εντάξει, okay. Thank you very much, Professor Bardis, and thank you for the limiting of my time. But I'm going to give you some references as I go
Of
forward.
course, I was joking. You have plenary time.
I have the support of the previous speaker, so I can have as much time as he will approve for me. The title of my talk is Survivability Quantification. These two words are very important because so far we have not been able to really quantify survivability. Because if you quantify survivability, then warfare would be an easy task, and it's not an easy task. I'll give you a reference. A few years ago, I wrote this book, and because we had the Olympic Games in Greece in 2004, and we wanted to make safe Olympic Games, and I collected all the stuff that existed at that time that related to reliability, survivability, and quality for large-scale telecommunication systems. This is available, and I take a lot of material from that book. Reference is a chapter that Professor Bardis and Nicholas Dukas, we wrote together, and it was published in the book Artificial Intelligence of Cybersecurity. And that book is available, and the pages of our chapters from 285 to 308. Another paper that we put as a chapter in another book is a review of artificial intelligence cyber threat assessment techniques for increased system survivability. This paper has received so far a lot of citations. Why we talk about survivability? We talk survivability because we are in the midst of information revolution. Information revolution, why we have information revolution? Because new things started to be very important, integration of systems, large-scale distribution. Services, or when we say mission, we mean that it must provide essential services manner in the presence of attacks, failures, and accidents, which any other activity is different, because we say you are going to make our system survivable for at least one is very important for us, in a timely manner in the presence of attacks, failures, and accidents. So we the system, we are not waiting for the system to be or to start correcting it from the beginning, survivable. So how we do that? So, introductory slides in order to go faster to the stuff. In order to say that you're going to solve a very important problem, you have to realize that you're looking for a very serious task. And then you say that this task can be faced or find a solution by survivability. We have defined survivability, but then we have to prove that this tool, which is called survivability, is autonomous. We don't need anything else. It's self-sufficient. That's why I'm saying, could the gap which exists with the other approaches can be closed by survivability. And if we do not answer this, we have not done much. Classification of survivability strategies that lead to survivable system requirements. So before you solve a problem, you must study and find out what are the requirements for the solution. And here we have resistance, recognition, recovery, and adaptation to evolution. And I explain in this slide what we mean by each of these aspects. I think this lecture could be delivered if somebody asked for it. Nico. So, in the previous slide, we said that these are the aspects of the strategies you must follow. And then we have to find what kind of attributes. So attributes means what other components of this survivability we must study and we must quantify in order to use this quantification of the components of survivability to find the quantification or to proceed towards the quantification of survivability. So if my previous, if the previous lecturer from Israel has seen this, he will say that you are trying to solve the problem in a common sense way. I'm not doing something revolutionary. I'm trying to go step by step. Define survivability, what kind of attributes it must have, and what kind of components it has, and how we can go towards survivability and quantification of it by quantifying its components. And I said that the components, it can be proven. I did not prove it myself, but I give you here a paper. It can be proven, but it's also, as we go forward, we see that it is almost self-evident that survivability, its main components are availability, reliability, fault tolerance, and security. Let's go to Then, when we go step by step, as I said, availability, reliability, fault tolerance, and security, if we go step by step, that rings the bell. Maybe we can use even artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is a step-by-step process to see if we can do something original. So I broke up the steps we have to take in order to really use all the attributes of the components and get to a solution in order to find all the requirements of survivability by examining the requirements for quantification of its components. And I got this diagram. And now I go a little deeper and define passive and active survivability. Passive is that we design a system and then we see if that system works. But in the active survivability, we must also be on the alert if something goes off the project, of the plan. Now, I go again and say, I saw that this diagram leads in some sense to artificial intelligence, and then I have to go and see what parameters or what components I'll use for this plan. So I'm going to go now to analyze components and see how we can quantify them. Because if I quantify the components of survivability, then I think it is easy to realize that an artificial intelligence plan or system will take these quantified parameters and develop a system that will give us quantification of survivability. So we start from fault tolerance. Fault tolerance is the ability of a network system to continue normal operation despite the presence of hardware or software faults. This is a good idea, but we have to quantify it. We also have to realize that fault tolerance is not an independent attribute, but it is a property that is designed into a system to achieve some design goals. The appropriate attribute necessary for fault tolerance are the following, but we take availability as the primary component, and we go with that. And in order we broke survivability in its components. But each component has also other components, its own components. So you see, we start fault tolerance. Fault tolerance has to face threats. It must have the actions, the necessary actions to face the threats. And you must also have the means to correct what the system is suffering from. So we see that one of the attributes, you don't see, the cursor is not shown on the, when I move this, do I get?
Τώρα το κόκκινο φαίνεται, βλέπετε και στην.
So you will see that now another step down is to break every component of survivability to its own components. And we see that the attribute that availability is part of fault tolerance. Okay. Now we have to understand what we mean by faults. So we have permanent faults which lead to permanent error and to system failure. Incorrect design can go to a permanent, create a permanent error and then go to system failure. Unstable or marginal components maybe create an intermittent error and then arrive to a system failure and so on. This is important because when we define fault tolerance, we have to realize what kind of fault we are dealing with. Now, since we are going to quantify fault tolerance, we have to see what we mean. And we are going to find now, we have, since all the components of survivability are random variables, we have to see what we mean in the practical sense and as an average of this probabilistic quantity in a longer time, at least as long as terminating its mission, which can take days or hours and so on. So from one fault to the other fault, this is a time axis. We don't put here numbers because we don't need them. We call it the measure of the before a fault. So we have a fault, and the time which will be by the system will create another fault. We call this empty, and then we have from the error. So there is no fault before this fault, but there could be an error in the middle. We detect it, and then we repair it, and then we find when we come here, we say, well, from right here, before this time, I have no fault. I started from here, and here, I have no fault. But we may have, the system may be under faults in the intermittent time, and it has been repaired, so we don't see it here. So that means that when we find the probability of this to take place, we also have to add the probability that intermittent faults that have been corrected. So, since we are looking for the average is given by this equation. Now, let's go to the other parameter, availability. Availability by doing other, by experience. We have to also use experience in this study of survivability, because survivability is a very unique concept. And in order to solve it, you have to use the experience of what you have learned by examining in previous time each components. So it looks like this, availability, and it starts, and you start the system, you design it very well, it starts very well, and then it goes down up to this acceptable level. This is now the level that is created by you, because you say, no matter how I started, a perfect system, I'll be able to design a survivable system by having some non-availability. Like when I'm here, down here, there is no availability at the level of it's acceptable, but this is enough for me. Now, the point of availability is the thing that I told you, that I'm looking 2 times. I'm the beginning and the end. I don't see at the end any problem, but in the middle maybe other problems. So that is this type of point availability, which means point availability means we finish. Nick, we have more time? 10 minutes? Okay. So, as an average now, we are going to accept the average, the mean of how many seconds or hours the system is up, working, how many minutes is down. We add up and down and make this ratio, and that will be the mean of availability. But we have to, since I use the curve as a function of time for availability, I can do it mathematically, finding the average. And then I know how to determine the average, and the average could be enough to be calculated by this formula. But we have also the other mathematical expression that we can do it exactly. Now you go to reliability, and we see the reliability has some subcomponents, fault tolerance, and availability. This has been proven. In order to control reliability, the reliability, besides other features, must also be able to handle fault tolerance and availability. So we see the third component of survivability, reliability. There are many ways to compute it mathematically, because we say that from one node to the other, the system can have many nodes. The process of the fault traveling is Markovian, so we don't, if we have fault in one node, doesn't mean that this will affect the next node, and so on. And this is like a Markov system for as far as reliability is concerned. And there are many books that give us how to calculate the reliability. And if we go back now, we can see that reliability as a time function is equal to E minus T divided by this average availability that we, fault tolerance that we studied or developed before. Now, the other component is security, and we see that security has also availability and the fault tolerance as components, and therefore reliability, and we therefore have to calculate this component. And now this component will the security component also depends on other parameters, and those are parameters that are behind what we are trying to do, but we have to examine them, because one of them is cryptography for security, which is something that we have to study outside of our attempt to find the survivability of the system. That's why I don't have any, for this case, I don't have any quantification for security, because it depends on other aspects which are beyond everything we said and everything we have thought to see what kind of process is needed to achieve survivability. It's tabled here. And again, we go to the other aspects that we mentioned before. And now we go to the final result. In order to have survivability, you must be able to calculate availability, reliability, fault tolerance, and security, and find a number, acceptable number, which means that if the system follows these numbers, the quantification of any of its components, and all of them, the system is called survival. And if it's called survival, then I say, how can we do something original? We say, I design my system, and I say, according to the parameters I found and calculated, I quantified for its parameters, I put them here. Then the system works, but somebody who is here, a central control, attends the development of the mission. So if at this point he gets the quantification of these components as it was planned, he gives a signal here, go ahead. Supposing with the time and some other means or some other way, this system is attacked. If it's attacked, some of these parameters will be below its acceptable level. If it's below the acceptable level, we say the system is no more survivable. So the main controller, the attack will be identified here in the multi-stage deep learning artificial intelligence. The system here has all the parameters that we calculated before, and will give now the new parameters to the controller. If the controller sees that the parameters it got from this system are the correct ones, it says, okay, follow the new plan. Because each time the parameters go below the acceptable level, the system has to do another strategy. Cannot be done by trying to wait to see maybe the fault is eliminated by itself. So this is something that I am going to tell my colleague from Israel. Maybe he'll put this in his agenda as a mentor for the academia. Now, warfare systems. Warfare systems is another area of research. It's military, and survivability is a very important aspect. We explain what we are going to study, electronic warfare, with its components, so on, and try to see what a new plan we have to use for warfare. It's not going to be the same plan, because warfare has attacks, has tricks, has other means to compromise the system of the defender. These are the quantification process that has to take place in order to, as it is related to warfare systems. And of course, we said that we search for innovative approaches using or thinking of an artificial intelligence for the previous case. For this now, for the warfare, maybe a new one or more sophisticated we have to use. But how you use a better than a new one, you have to go back and see if another type of a system that's used in the military could be used as an example to quantify survivability for military system, for electronic warfare. And all of a sudden, we found out that the mobile ad hoc systems have this feature that will give us the way to quantify survivability for military, for electronic warfare. And that was that we have to use for our system the ISO model, which breaks down the original system to its seven components. We do that. This is the OSI system. We analyze how the MANETs, which are the mobile ad hoc transmission systems, and we see the previous slides, we show how their military aspects apply to survivability, and I analyze them. For this type of systems, we define the survivability. We start with the acceptable level of survivability, but in a military system, we have to accept that as time goes on, this survivability will be down, you go to the level, but this is the area we have to use the breakdown of the 7-layer ISO model in order to be working and trying to correct this part. And then at the end, we were going to say we're going to have a value for survivability, and the value is we are going to do everything we said, and then at the end to calculate a number which is the quantity or the quantification of survivability, and that's the function which is the payoff that we get from the operation or the loss that we suffer. It shows that the model for military systems is reduced to 4 levels instead of 7. This makes our life easier. And now I say maybe we have to be smart and go beyond the artificial intelligence. Maybe you can use a game theory. And why you can use a game theory here? Because in order to apply game theory to any problem, you must have players, you must have strategies, which we call it in our everyday language as a second plan, plan B, plan C, and so on. And those are the strategies. We have them in our disposal. And we have the strategies, we have the players, and we have the payoffs. The payoffs will be the ones if we use a game which looks like a nice game, then we expect to get to equilibrium, and the equilibrium is the solution to the problem, to survivability problem, and we have to accept the equilibrium as the final decision. That's it. There is not going to be another decision in a game theory. If you reach an equilibrium, then whatever you get, you are going to accept it, because the way you develop the game system, it means the equilibrium as a player, whether you are defender or attacker, that means that whatever else you do will be worse for you. And I show how the game can be used in electronic warfare, and I'm going to tell you, since you are Ukrainians, that Russians have the best mathematicians in the world. I know it by experience. And I'm sure before attacking Ukraine, they did everything that they could do to see how they're going to succeed in a few days. And I'm sure after they found their original plan, they said, let's play a game. They played the game, arrived at the point that in order to do your plan, everything you say, you must surround Kiev and get into Kiev in a week. That was the game. That was the point that could be good for Russia. But that game, it was not effective, and look what happened.
Maybe that proves that they don't have the best mathematicians.
No, no. They have the best mathematicians. They play the game that I'm showing here. And they got an equilibrium that says you have to capture the president in 1 week. But they did that. They tried. They circled Kiev by 1,000 tanks. And then the Ukrainians used the drones and destroyed them. And what do we say now? Superpower Russia, you go back. The game was played well, but they did not realize that they had to use it. Because it was a very, so I'm giving a solution to the Ukrainian problem. And this is, so survivability is a very complicated concept. It has components. Every component of survivability has components, again, and all of them have to work in a certain way that you calculate them, and if one of them, of the maybe 30, 40 components is below, during the mission, is below, is acceptable, you stop, you redo another strategy, you recalculate these components, and if you get to a level that are acceptable, you say, let's play a game now to see if the equilibrium will arrive at a point where after many retries, we get to the same equilibrium. So if the game theory gives you an equilibrium that do not like it, you stop and you are thinking of your original plan. Okay, thank you very much. And I have more to show you, but I think I did exactly.
Yes, we don't have such a time. Thank you, Professor Stavroulakis, for your presentation. Very useful, and of course, as well now, because the most of from here were from engineering sciences, availability, survivability, and all of this is very important for our systems, of course. Please, have we any questions?
Yes.
Yes. First of all, because we're in both and offline and online, okay? Let's start with offline, and Professor Popov has to make a question.
So I go there, and what can I speak from here?
Can you try to speak?
So interesting talk. Clearly, there is quite a bit of overlap between what you presented and a very well-known taxonomy known within this community of dependability, which was developed years ago by Eugenius, Randall, and a few others, three, of course. But my question is really about this survivability. I can see clear with something which is currently used. Americans tend to use the term resiliency. If I understood correctly, you don't define in your presentation survivable. If it survives, whether the quality of service that the system offers after being subjected to either failures or to attacks, whether the quality of service remains at the optimal level or it may deteriorate. This seems to be the difference between operation under normal conditions and the system which is resilient. If you resilience, will probably at
the survivability
at the expense of getting worse quality of service. So I would like you to comment if possible.
The quantification of survivability, it is calculated continuously during a mission in order to create the payoff of the of the mission and get a number, that is in military systems, as I read many electronic warfare situations, is covered by this procedure. And as I said, at the end, when you make all these calculations, you run also a game theory problem in order to see if you get to an equilibrium that will be acceptable for you. Resilience is if you say the resilience, but I don't know if the resilience was broken up in its components and see how the final quantity of resilience is a result of the quantification of each component. Because whatever you say, resilience, acceptability, dependability, has components. And you don't know which component is very important in the realization of resilience. Well, if you don't know, you have to break it down. As I told you, this was a very important problem. And the ISO model is very important because if you broke it up to all levels, then when you play the game, one of the players, there is going to be, when you play the game in a warfare, because of an ISO model, you don't think player says only the attacker and the defender, but also the nodes. Each node is a player. Why? Because you may have the node that says networking. The network node has to send a lot of data in order, because he's receiving a lot of data. He has to send it, and the transport layer says, then Bruno, I cannot send all of this data. I get congestion, and the system now is performing that the transport layer does not work according to the plan. So the disadvantage of a game is that, according to Nash, if you go more than 2 players, you are in a big trouble. The game may not get into equilibrium. And since this problem requires a lot of players, it's very difficult. But at the end, you do it as a verifying problem to your original plan. So
into account environment.
Obviously,
Obviously,
of course,
if you talk about
the environment is preparing to your mission.
Eli, we have lost the network. Do you have any more questions?
we have no time, sorry.
Okay, more questions?
Any more
I
questions?
like more questions.
we understood.
Because I hope the Israeli colleague is...
Very short question. As we see that there's some direction about the resilience as fault tolerance, as reliability, availability, and that's one. All these we have met.
Yes.
You propose a method to combine all that with artificial intelligence, and then after that you can discuss and make the decision about the percent of survivability for the system.
Okay, of course.
Do we have real metrics on that?
For what?
So, on
Yes,
which
yes,
based
yes.
artificial intelligence
Yes.
with neural networks of tabular
Yes,
fuzzy
yes.
logic or with
For a
deep learning?
military system, the fault tolerance would be 0, 9, 9,
5,
9,
6, 7,
5, 9 fault
Common.
tolerance. So if you have 0, 9, 9, 8, you stop. Another strategy you use, because the system is not going to be survivable. That's for military. If it is for other purposes, You are okay with 0.8.
But for example, in nuclear power plants industry, there are other indicators. For
Yeah, of
example,
course. Yeah.
principles of single
Yeah,
failure.
yeah.
It means that any failure should be tolerated.
This talk is good for electronic warfare.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
you.
young Professor Stavroulakis. To join us. And but we'll have a small shift of our time about especially the first plenary lecture for a keynote speaker. So we'll have to shift our program to 15 minutes, and we'll have a coffee break for 15 minutes. So next two sessions will be online, and will be start in 11:15.
Sorry, and moderator of session 1.2 will be Professor Vladimir Lukin, and session and session 2.2 will be here, and we will moderate session 2.2. Let's have a short break, and we'll come 10 or 15 minutes later.
15 minutes, yes. 11:15.
Yes. Okay. We ask moderators to check participants. I mean before your session, and realize flexible schedule. Thank you.